This shit right here had me losing sleep. So back when I first started my YouTube channel, I always wanted to make a video talking about the anime that we'll be looking at today. But in 2019, well, I was just being too damn pussy. And didn't have the long ass hair like Tanjiro. New Guaz, he's done to start some shit. So with that being said, if talks or references to blood, gore, violence, or that no nasty word that rhymes with crate makes you feel uncomfortable, then it's perfectly understandable if you skip this video and catch me on my next one. But for those of you who don't mind, let's talk about the 80s. People were walking around with bright parachutes for pants, California's governor was kicking down doors with an AR and shotty, Chia Pet hair was a thing, the TVs were thick, and some of y'all aunties and uncles were out here doing crack or heroin depending on how hardcore they were. During this time, anime was raw, hyper violent, and raunchy. 90 Sakamans were complaining about Pokemon being satanic, but wait till they see Wicked City, which in the first 5 minutes, my man was getting demon dome and demon cheeks.
Wait a minute. Hey, yo!
The goriness and violence of 80s anime would continue in the 90s and give birth to monstrosities like Genocyber. Now when it comes to Genocyber, this shit is metal as fuck. Cities and countries getting destroyed, psychics fighting each other, entrails hanging from ceilings, motherfuckers getting turned into biology experiments, and cyborgs tearing off their flesh and turning into weapons of mass destruction. This show is some goddamn mid, not even mid, some straight up ass cheeks. If you've ever heard about Genocyber before now, it's probably because you've seen it on a top 10 goriest anime list or something along those lines. And for the most part, you do see some pretty wild stuff from this anime, but mostly in the first episode. While the story for Genocyber isn't anything to write home about, when people are getting mindfucked and screaming, convulsing on the floor like they caught the Holy Ghost, it's pretty lit. But aside from the violence and just seeing how far this anime will go in killing off its characters, there's not much to this series at all. The story takes place in a world where nations are beginning to merge and world peace is threatened. Bad things and politics are happening. A scientist discovers a power called Vajra, which sounds like some alien coochie by the way, but okay, and creates a machine called the Mandala that can cultivate Bajora to the point that will bring forth a biological weapon known as Genocyber. While the story ends up being nonsensical, I kinda feel like it has something going for it. The first episode is brutal as hell. Characters are seen for 2 frames and then the next time you see them, their heads are rolling off their shoulders. Genocyber holds nothing back when it comes to its gore and violence. It could have been something to watch purely for the shock value, but a couple of times it feels like the writers said to themselves, wait a minute, this is an anime, and animes have stories. How can we get the viewers to give a damn about this anime? So then the anime shoves some shots of Elaine's dead homies to make you feel sad or something. Now some of y'all may call me a savage or perhaps even a brute for saying this, but I'm on my Michael Jordan Bernie Mac shit. Fuck them kids. I don't know how the hell these writers expected us to care for these flat characters that we see for 2 seconds before they get blasted. This motherfucker Elaine barely even speaks. She howls and makes Pokemon noises more than you ever hear her talk. So when Genocyber is being all edgy and shocking, it's ironically at its most bearable. And the first episode does a pretty good job of being creepy, but after that they drop the ball by focusing on boring storylines. So this is where I ask you guys, which would you rather see? A psychic biological monster flying around destroying countries and fighting armies? Or Elaine playing house with a delirious nurse and Genocyber fighting a Power Ranger villain in a damn battleship? It's like the anime had the puzzle pieces, but the stupid motherfuckers put the triangle where the circle is supposed to go. The anime talks about a whole 100-year war between humanity and Genocyber that you see only for 2 minutes. Give me more of that, less of this. So besides the merciless display of blood and gore, Genocyber ain't nothing much, and even that gets toned down after episode 1, which is 46 minutes long. So when it comes to Genocyber, you might just be better off watching a gore compilation of it instead. Now Violence Jack takes all that stuff that I mentioned about 80s anime and cranks it up to 1000. This anime makes Genocyber look like a damn kid show. Violence Jack is made by the same creator of the Devilman series, so if you watch or read any of those adaptations, you have an idea of some of the sick shit within this series. Violence Jack takes place in a post-apocalyptic world that's gone to shit after a comet splits up and hits it, causing earthquakes, eruptions, and other natural disasters that ravage the planet. In a time where the world is lawless and madmen go around doing as they please, one man stands up against these beasts of men named Violence Jack. Jack is a big ass man with a big ass jackknife and some manly ass sideburns. But I'm not sure if this anime was trying to paint Jack as some sort of hero, because if they were, this man fucking sucks. First of all, he's always late, and by the time he shows up, there's at least like 50 people already dead. And after he quote unquote saves the day, things somehow get worse than they were before. If you ever got caught lacking by 20 savages with Glocks, extendos, and rocket launchers, and the only person who comes to help you is Violence Jack, you better look at that motherfucker Jack and tell him, go the fuck home. The first episode of this 3-episode OVA is the weakest and tamest of the bunch, but even though it's the least graphic of the 3, you still got your what the fuck moments. This episode introduces Jack's nemesis, the Slum King, and focuses on his evil empire. After a battle between Jack and the Slum King is somehow interrupted by a tidal wave, the Slum King puts his henchmen on Jack's head top. At the same time, there's this whole thing with these 2 girls that got captured to be sold as sex slaves for the Slum King's empire. Now when the story goes from henchmen destroying villages in search of Jack to the whole slave thing, you start getting some stupid shit. This henchman decides to give a tour of old Sex Place Palace to the 2 girls like it's a new job orientation. And the 2 girls are like, ew bro, we don't want to see this. Can you let us go? So the henchman devises the genius plan of maybe if I give these girls a little licky, they'd actually want to do this. And then bam, now we're watching a hentai. Jack storms the place and beats the big boss henchman at the cost of his arm and killing the person whose life he spared literally less than 5 minutes ago. Jack does a heavy metal scream, points his jackknife at the sky, lightning strikes, and he miraculously heals all of his injuries. But Shorty's boyfriend over here, that man gone, he ain't coming back. The episode ends with everyone being dead besides one girl, and I think Jack turned into a spicy fucking chicken flying in the sky. Now the second episode is where everything hits the fan and where you might get left shook. This episode takes place in an underground city known as Evil Town, and all these guys down here, they are down astronomically. Bugs everywhere, a boy getting murked over stale-ass ham, and kids eating roaches and fighting over a rat for dinner like homie busted through with the Mickey D's. When in Evil Town, there's 3 groups, Zone A, B, and C. Zone A digs Jack from out a wall, and shortly after the Zone B savages pull up, but all scatter when Jack steps and squishes one like they're a bug. The big boss of Zone B hears about this, and he and his girlfriend devise a plan to lure out Jack, Zone A, and Zone C. During this meeting, Zone C reveals that Zone A drugged him, and you can fill in the blanks on what happens next. This anime is pretty damn disgusting. Zone C convinces Jack to help them, and he guides Zone C to where they can finally make it to the surface. At the same time, Zone B ambushes Zone A, and they're going at it. Jack goes back to make sure that no one catches up to Zone C while they escape, and we get some good old 80s action. Jack is beating the fuck out of Zone B boss man and even suplexes him across the ceiling. He then headbutts Zone B boss man, tosses him to the side, and then looks at his girlfriend and goes, "All my ops gotta die," and starts gripping her head like it's a grape, and she's pissing herself. At the last moment, Zone B boss man gets a lucky shot on Jack, and his girlfriend escapes to catch up with Zone C. Boss man starts doing this weird breathing and grunting, then whips out the karate like it'll actually do something. He gets his ass beat. Again. What happens next is the biggest plot twist in anime history. I'm talking about bigger than Attack on Titan. I'm talking about bigger than Monster. Shorty had a dick. Some more deviant, degenerate shit happens. Jack comes in like an hour late, cuts some eyeballs, rips some people in half. You know, just the usual for Jack. Bossman finds his girlfriend beheaded and completely loses it. And just when you think the anime couldn't get any weirder, this man goes cannibal mode and eats his girlfriend, dick and all. I think I even heard him burp up the balls too. He then turns into some freaking nature monstrosity. Maybe this is why people say not to eat red meat. Mutated boss man goes on the hunt for Jack. They meet, they fight. You can guess who wins. The Zone C girls are free after Jack fails to save like 90% of them, and this is as happy an ending as you can expect from this anime. Now the final episode of this OVA doesn't have as much going for it when compared to the second one, but it still has those disturbing moments that Violence Jack is known for. The episode centers around a biker gang known as Hell's Wind and their acts of terror. Like mentioned earlier, you still get those graphic scenes like a man getting his legs chopped off with a chainsaw and another getting ripped into two. The anime tries pretty hard to make this biker gang horrifying, and to an extent they do, but in the back of my head while watching this, I could only think, who the hell is scared of a couple of bikers? These motherfuckers are one Mario Kart banana peel away from looking like roadkill. No! So there's not much to say about this episode. It's just more gore and sexual violence, and to be honest, I wouldn't even have bothered watching this anime past episode 2 if I wasn't making a video on it. So all in all, unless you're looking for some sick vibes or just want to see a whole bunch of blood and gore, I wouldn't suggest watching Violence Jack or Genocyber, but other than that, that's all for this video. I'm gonna catch you next time, And ayy.